Hi there, this is Mr. Khan from 11 Plus and GCSE Coach. In this video, we're looking at how to convert from percentages to fractions and to decimals, one from another. Um, Firstly, to convert from decimals to percentages, you simply get the decimal number and you multiply it by 100. It will give you the percentage equivalent. And to go from percentages back to decimals, you do the opposite. So you divide the percentage by 100 to get to the decimal form. So this flow diagram underneath, it gives you an idea of how to convert one from another. So let's have a look at some examples. So I've got a question here which says convert 0.52 into a percentage. Now, in order for me to do that, remember I need to multiply the decimal by 100. So to do that, I would do 0.52 and times it by 100. Now remember what happens to a number when you times by 100. If you've forgotten that, go and watch my video on what happens to a number when you multiply by 100. And in that video, I would have mentioned how the shortcut is to simply move the decimal point. Remember, in reality, the decimal point never moves. The numbers shift two places to the left when you're timesing about 100. But the effect of it is that it seems like the decimal point has moved two places to the right. So as a shortcut, we're going to just do that. Get the decimal point and move it two places to the right. It ends up after the 52. Whenever the decimal point is at the end of a number, it's a whole number. So in this case, 0.52 times by 100 gives me 52%. So that's the answer to the first question. Now, the next question is convert 74% into a decimal, or 74% into a decimal. So remember, to go from percentages to decimals, you simply divide the percentage by 100. So in this case, it will be 74 divided by 100. So remember, if you times by 100 and the decimal point, you're going to move two places to the right. So the reverse of that will be divide by 100, so move the decimal point two places to the left. Now, so where is the decimal point in the whole number? So remember I said earlier, when the decimal point is at the end, it's a whole number. So if it's a whole number, the decimal point must be at the end because after the units column is a decimal point. Because I'm dividing by 100, I'm going to move it two places to the left. So it's 1, 2, so it ends up with 0.74. So whenever you start with a decimal point, you must put a 0 before it. So 74% as a decimal will be 0.74. Hopefully that made sense. I would like you to pause the video and have a go at these questions. When you're ready, play the video to see if you get them right. Okay, the first question is going from decimals to percentages. So remember, you're simply timesing it by 100. So in this case, you get the decimal point and move it two places to the right. So that'll give me 32%. Hopefully you got that right. Same with the next question. You're timesing it by 100 because you're going from decimal to percentage. You move decimal place two places to the right, and that was 68%. Next question, or the same method, times by 100. But this one here, you only got one digit, so that shouldn't matter because you're going to still move it two places to the right. So you move 1 and you move 2, and the decimal point ends up here. Whenever you have an empty little dip here, you fill it up with a 0. So 040 is actually 40, so it's 40%. So 0.4 as a decimal is 40%. And 0.09, again, times it by 100. And in this case, you're going to move it two places to the right. 1, 2, so decimal point at the end is a whole number. 009 will be just 9%. Hopefully you got those questions right. In the next question, we're going backwards from percentages to decimals. So you take the 37 and you're going to divide it by 100. So remember, in that 37, the decimal point's at the end of the 7. So here it is. You're going to move it two places back. 1, 2, you start with the decimal point, so put a 0 before it. So the answer will be 0.37 is equivalent of 37% into decimals. So 89%, same again. So 89, you divide it by 100. So find the decimal point. If it's not there, it's at the end. Move it two places to the right, it becomes 0.89, add a 0 before it. So the answer to that would be 0.89. 125%. So you get the 125, find the decimal point. So you're dividing it by 100 again. So the decimal point is always at the end of a whole number. You move it two places back, 1, 2. So it becomes 1.25. So 125% is 1.25 as a decimal. Now 3%. Now where's the decimal point in 3 is at the end of it because the whole number. You're still dividing it by 100. You're going to move back two places. So 1, 2. Just like before, if you start a decimal point, you put a 0 before it. And the dip that you have with nothing on it, you must fill it up with a 0, the placeholder. So you end up with 0.03 as a decimal equivalent to 3%. Hopefully you got these questions right. All right. So what happens when you go from fractions to percentages? So we've done decimals to percentages and backwards. Now we're going to go from fractions to percentages. Now to convert from fractions to percentages, you need to get the fraction over 100. The reason being, percentage means out of 100. So if you can write a number over 100, the number at the top, the numerator, will be the percentage. So to convert from fractions to percentages, you find equivalent fraction over 100. And to convert from percentages to fractions, you put this percentage over 100, because percentage means out of 100. You simply write it over 100, and where possible, simplify the fraction. So let's have a look at some examples. So the first question is fractions to percentages. So we're going to convert 4 over 10 into percentage. Now, to convert this into percentage, remember I said earlier, find an equivalent fraction to put it over 100. So in this case, again, if you've forgotten how to find equivalent fractions, go and watch the video on equivalent fractions. It explains how to make an equivalent fraction. So going from here, 4 is out of 10. We want to write as equivalent to over 100. Equivalent means equal, so we're not changing the value of it. So to get from 10 to 100, you times it by 10. So whatever you do to the denominator, you must do the same to the numerator, and vice versa. So 4 times by 10. So 4 times 10 will be 40. So 40 over 100. Because it's out of 100, and percentage means out of 100 is 40%. So next question is 52% into a fraction. So remember, percentage means out of 100, so you simply put the 52 over 100, and you simplify where possible. So in this case, we can simplify this. So they're both even numbers, so we can make it simple. When you're simplifying fractions, you still find an equivalent fraction, but in lower terms. So in this case, 52 is an even number, 100 is an even number. I can divide them both by 2. And that will give me half of 52 is 26, and half of 100 is 50, so 26 out of 50. Can I simplify again? Of course, I can divide them both by 2 again, because they're both even numbers. So 26 divided by 2 and 50 divided by 2. So 26 divided by 2 is 13, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. I can't simplify that any further, because 13 is a prime number and 25 is not a multiple of 13. So the answer will be, in this case, 13 over 25 is the 52% as a fraction equivalent. Hopefully that made sense. So again, have a go at these questions, and when you're ready, pause the video. Pause the video and have a go at this question. When you're ready to see, check your answers, play the video to see if you got them right. Hopefully you had a go at these questions. 9 over 10. To make it into a percentage, you try to get the fraction, the denominator, over 100. In this case, it's 10 to 100. You times it by 10. You times the 9 by 10. You end up with 90 over 100, which is 90%. Now, 3 over 5 into a percentage, put it over 100, see if you can make 5 into 100. Yeah, 5 goes into 100 20 times, you times it by 20. You times the 3 by 20, that gives me 60. So 3/5 is 60%. Because whenever you write it over 100, it means out of 100, and percentage means out of 100. So that means if it's out of 100, it must be the percentage, which is 60. Next question, 13 over 20. I can make it over 100, because 20 does go nicely into 100 5 times. So I must times 13 by 5 as well. The answer for that will be 65. And that will be 65%. Hopefully you've got that right. Next question is about going backwards, percentages to fractions. So remember, you do the opposite. So in this case, you do 32 over 100 to start off with, and then see if you can simplify that. So both of my even number, I can divide them both by 2. I'll end up with, I divide that by 2, I divide that by 2. As long as you do the same to both numbers, then it's simplified. That'll give me 16 over 50. Again, both are even numbers. I can divide them by 2 again, and that will give me 8 over 25. Now, nothing apart from 1 goes into 8 and 25, so I can leave it as that. So that's my final answer for 32% as a fraction, is 8 over 25. Next one is 88%. So you put 88 over 100, and you simplify it. So you divide them both by 2, and I'll end up with, it's not always going to be 2. I just happen to pick numbers which are even numbers for the sake of ease. It could be divided by 4, for example, as well, or 6, or not necessarily 6, but, because 6 won't go into 100. But it could be other numbers as well. Just keep that in mind. Just to make life easier, I'd stick to 2. All right, so in this case, 88 divided by 2 will be 44, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. Both even numbers again, so I can divide them both by 2. So that would be 22 over 25. Now I can't simplify any further, so 88% is 22 over 25. Okay, 120%. So again, it's always going to be out of 100, so 120% over 100. Now here I can make it life easier, divide it by 10 first. because you can do 2 as well, but 10 will be easier because I end up with smaller numbers pretty early on in my simplification. That'll give me 12 over 10. Now 12 over 10, I can simplify further again if I want to, which is going to be 6 over 5 divided by 2. Now this is an improper fraction. Again, if you don't know what improper fractions are, please watch the video on improper fractions. I can rewrite this number as a mixed number now. How many 5 is going to 6? The answer is 1 whole. Is there a remainder? Yes, 1 remainder over 5. So the answer to this question, 120%, is 1 and 1/5 as a mixed number. Hopefully you got these right. What happens though when you have a fraction where the denominator can't go into 100? So here are 2 examples. Think about this. What would you do then? Okay, so the simple answer is when the denominator can't go into 100, then you convert the fraction into a decimal first. And then from there, to go to a percentage is straightforward. You simply times by 100. So there are other ways, but this is the way I think this way is probably the simplest to understand. So 5 over 8. So again, if you don't know what 5 over 8 means, watch my video on division. Fractions are division, the numerator divided by the denominator. So if you don't know what 5 over 8 is, you can use the bus stop method. So that would be, for example, 5 inside the bus stop, 8 outside. How many 8's going to 5? None, because 8 is too big. So you put the decimal point there, decimal point there. Now you end up with, I can put a 0 there. 5 is the same as 5.0. I'm not changing the value of it by adding a 0 because I've introduced a decimal point. So that means the remainder of 5 is still there. I'll put the 5 next to the 0 makes 50. This is short division. How many 8's going to 50? 8 6s are 48. So I'll put a 6 there because 8 7 will be above 50. 8 6s are 48, remainder 2. So now I can add another 0 because 5.00 is still the same as 5. And the remainder of 2 I can put there, 20. So how many 8's going to 20? 8 2s are 16, 8 3s are 24, 3 will be too big, so it has to be 2. 8 2s are 16, remainder 4. So add another 0, 5.000 is still the same as 5. And the remainder of 4 goes next to here. So the answer will be 40. How many 8's going to 40? The answer is 5. So that's great. So there's no more remainders. So I've done the calculation. So 5 divided by 8 is 0.625. But this is not a percentage. This is a decimal form. So what do I need to do to convert it into a percentage? So what I said a few slides ago, you simply times the decimal by 100. So that will give me 0.625 as a percentage will be, I'll move it 2 places to the right, is 62.5. The decimal point moves from there to there. So the answer will be 5 over 8 as a percentage is 62.5%. Hopefully that made sense. So put it simply, if you cannot get the denominator to go into 100, you simply divide the numerator by the denominator, and you get a decimal form, and then can go from decimal form to percentage, which is simply by timesing it by 100. Hopefully you understood that. So have a go at this question on the right. When you're ready, play the video to see if you are on the right track. Okay, hopefully you've had a go at this question. So again, 15 divided by 6, bus stop method. Always put the numerator inside the bus stop and the denominator always goes on the outside, divided by 6. How many 6's going to 1? None, because 6 is too big, so put 1 next to 5, make 15. How many 6's going to 15? Well, 6 2's are 12, 6 3's are 18, so it has to be 2 because 3 is too big. So 6 2 are 12. I've got a remainder of 3, so where do I put the 3? So, well, I've run out of numbers to put the remainder next to, so now I need to introduce the decimal point, because with the decimal point, you're not changing the value, you can simply add as many zeros as you need, and that won't change the value of 15. Okay, so 6 2's were 12, I needed to make 15, so the remainder is 3. So put the 3 next to the 0 makes 30. How many 6's is going to 30? The answer is 5, so 6 5's are 30. And is there any more remainders? No, so that's straightforward enough, I guess. So that gives me 15 divided by 6 is 2.5. So that's, again, as a decimal form. And we can see that has to be greater than 1 because it's an improper fraction. So 2.5 is what 15 divided by 6 is. But to convert it into decimals, percentage rather, I need to times it by 100. So when you times it by 100, you get the decimal point and you're going to move it 2 places to the right as a shortcut. So that's 1, 2. So it ends up over here. There's an empty dip here, so I need to fill it up with a 0. So the answer will be 250. So 15 over 6 as a percentage is 250%. So that's the answer to this question. Hopefully you got this right and it made sense. Thank you for watching.